Hi, I'm Eric Voss, and with Avengers Infinity War approaching, a question has been brought up that is facing Thanos and pretty much every Marvel movie villain to this point. Who is this guy, and how do we kill him? Now, sure, that sounds a bit too bloodthirsty. The MCU needs more good villains. We shouldn't be too focused on how to get rid of them so soon. But assuming we'll get plenty of time with Thanos in both Infinity War Part 1 and 2, let's dig into the nature of this villain, what makes him unique from his story in the Marvel Comics, and what interesting sacrifices might have to be made to ultimately bring him down. And no, I'm not just referring to Ant-Man shrinking down, flying into Thanos' ear canal, and then re-expanding to blow up his head, though that would be sick. So let's break down 5 possible weaknesses of Thanos based on what past films have suggested and what we know about him from the comics. And spoiler warning in case you don't want to know any of those comic events and prefer to go into the movie blind. Okay, first, let's quickly remind ourselves of what Thanos even is. As seen in the Marvel Comics, he was born on Saturn's moon Titan, a child of Eternals, but born with a genetic defect that gave him his scarred purple appearance. His mother, seeing the evil in his eyes, tried to kill him, but failed. And yeah, by the way, those lines on Thanos' face are indeed birthmarks. He's always had them. They are not fresh scars given him by Black Panther, Captain America's new shield, or Wolverine, or anything crazy. As Thanos grew older, he became obsessed with nihilism and death, eventually falling in love and worshipping an embodiment of death known as Mistress Death. Hoping to impress her, he goes on a universe-wide killing spree, killing millions of his own race and thousands of planets and star systems. He wipes out half the universe in his pursuit of the Infinity Gems and Infinity Gauntlet, which has, of course, inspired the events that we're now seeing in the movies. Thanos' acquisition of the Infinity Stones would essentially make him immortal, invincible to any physical attack by the Avengers or any cosmic forces. Even if they could overpower the Power Stone, for example, using Star-Lord's celestial power, Thanos could just use the Time Stone to rewind the clock on their attacks, the way Doctor Strange did to Dormammu, or use the Reality Stone to bounce them between realities ruled by giant butts and ones where phones sit on pizzas dialing people to order sofas to eat. Dan Harmon worked on Doctor Strange, guys, so the MCU Rick and Morty crossover has already begun. To defeat a god, you have to either appeal to some even higher power, and sure, in the Marvel Comics, supreme cosmic forces like Eternity and the Living Tribunal do exist, but for them to drop in as some kind of Deus Ex Machina would kind of feel like a cheat. Or use that god's personality against him, like his pride or his emotional vulnerability. So this brings us to Thanos' first possible weakness, death. You know, I guess in the end, death is all of our weakness. Now for real, Mistress Death. Thanos' pursuit of her love could lead to some kind of union with this cosmic figure that would involve him departing this realm. You know, kind of like detaching his consciousness from his physical body to join death in some other dimension. Yeah, I know it seems like one of those, wait, huh? Things that only really make sense in comics, but the movies did tease Thanos' secret crush in his first appearance in the post-credits scene after Avengers.
To challenge them is to court death.
Now, of course, we could read that courting death joke as just an Easter egg pun, winking at Thanos' core motivator in the comics, rather than a serious indicator of death being an actual character in the movies as she is in the comics. Either way, there are some other weaknesses that do lead to this death union happening with Thanos that we should discuss. Bringing us to our second vulnerability of Thanos, Nebula and Adam Warlock. So these two characters are really the ones that lead to Thanos' defeat in the Infinity Gauntlet comics. Nebula, of course, is Thanos' always spiteful daughter. Meanwhile, Adam Warlock is a genetically perfect human who has the soul gem in his forehead. He has deity-like powers. Now, at first, it seemed like the Marvel movies were reappropriating that idea with Vision, giving him the Mind Stone in his forehead. But then, in one of the post-credit scenes after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Aisha teased Adam Warlock's upcoming entrance to the MCU.
I think I shall call him Adam.
So in this comic storyline, Thanos acquires the Infinity Gauntlet and more or less vanquishes all of his enemies, the Avengers, also the more cosmic powers of the Marvel world. So out of pride, his consciousness departs his physical body to go to an astral plane. That's when Nebula steals the gauntlet from his physical body, attacks him, and then through a convoluted series of events involving a heart-to-heart with Adam Warlock, Nebula undoes Thanos' destruction and hands off the gauntlet to Warlock, who decides to separate each Infinity Gem to people he deems worthy. Meanwhile, Thanos retires to work on a farm. Because comics, guys! Yeah, this all seems a little wacky for the movie version of this story, but I guess it would be interesting to see the heroes, if not Adam Warlock since we haven't really met him yet, maybe Tony Stark or Cap or Thor, Doctor Strange or Vision, instead of destroying Thanos, negotiating a similar truce with him that involves a mutual sacrifice on all their parts. Maybe one of them saying, hey, if you lay off Thanos, I'll give up my life, so a new generation of Avengers can take over the franchise. Also, it would be satisfying to see Nebula play a big part in Thanos' undoing, the forgotten daughter coming back to bite the old man in the ass, having set aside her vengeance to instead reverse the pain her father inflicted on the universe. But there's another supporting MCU character aiming for revenge against Thanos who could end up being another blind spot for him, Drax the Destroyer. In the first Guardians of the Galaxy, Drax initially swore vengeance on Ronan the Accuser for the death of his wife and daughter before declaring Thanos as his next target. Actually, in the Annihilation storyline in the comics, Drax actually succeeds in killing Thanos. Thanos is distracted trying to prevent a larger calamity from happening, and Drax fulfills his life mission by punching through Thanos' back and ripping his heart out. But really, Thanos' death is just a little anticlimactic here, right? Since in this story it meant an even larger threat to the universe would be coming now. Still, you can bet that Drax in the movies will still be on this mission. Without spoiling anything, leaked footage has shown Drax repeating his personal desire to kill the Mad Titan, even if it's not the best time to launch that attack. Really, if the MCU plans to pay off Drax and Nebula's subplots from the Guardians movies, these two characters will need to play some role in destabilizing Thanos. But let's move on to another threat to Thanos, who, remember, is a god so powerful that no physical threat can hurt him, except maybe a force with unlimited durability himself, Hulk. While Hulk probably isn't strong enough to overpower Thanos, his strength only increases with his rage, suggesting he could continue to fight blow for blow against Thanos without exhaustion. I would say both Hulk and Thanos are the kind of powers that don't really get defeated so much as contained. So I could see a scenario where these two fight for eons down to a standstill. We actually saw a similar version of this kind of strategy before in the MCU, which leads me to the final weakness on our list. Time, the destroyer of us all. Specifically time as we saw it used by Doctor Strange. One of the most intriguing elements of the Doctor Strange movie's ending was that Strange didn't fully defeat Dormammu. Instead, he manipulated the Eye of Agamotto / Time Stone to trap Dormammu in a time loop and gradually drive him insane. I think this tactic gave us a sense of other more out-of-the-box ways these cosmic forces can be brought down in the MCU. Whatever attack plan the Avengers use on Thanos will probably need, as part of the recipe, trapping or confusing Thanos by manipulating realities or time loops in a similar fashion. I mean, ultimately, we're probably looking at a combination of these tactics, right? Like Doctor Strange forcing Thanos to fight in a disadvantageous reality or time loop. Meanwhile, Star-Lord, Thor, and Hulk leading the charge to fight him physically, and then Nebula and Drax hitting him in the heart to fulfill their vengeance ambitions. All while Iron Man, Cap, and Vision would appeal to his reason in some possible truce negotiation. Maybe this will even lead to some kind of timeline reset, where the heroes will have to refight their old Infinity Stone related battles, which could be why those set photos for Infinity War Part 2 showed several of them with clocks on their hands and Captain America wearing his older Avengers era suit. I don't know, my imagination's running a little wild here, so I'll throw it over to you guys. What Thanos weakness do you see as the most interesting possible source of his downfall? Comment with your thoughts down below, or
Hold up.